Hey everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today we're going to be doing a this YouTube live video based on or about live centers. Before I get started, I just want to go ahead and apologize. Still getting used to this YouTube live thing. I actually forgot to hit the public button, so I've actually been doing the YouTube live. Apparently, a show for just one for me. Uh, since nobody else had the opportunity to join in. So I'm going to start over now, um, and we'll get going from here. So anyway, um, the recently I found myself in a conversation with another maker online about live centers, and I kind of thought about it, and I figured it would be a good thing to share on YouTube Live because there's a lot of options out there, and some of us know about it, and some of us don't. Some of us newbies, you go down the aisle at the woodworking store, you're perusing the web, perusing Amazon or whatever, looking at all these things, and you're not really sure. Uh, you're not really sure which one's for you or why you should pick one over the other. So I'm not really here to recommend one thing over the other or to say that there's any definitive one or definitive product that's going to be right for you. But I just want to share my collection and my experience with it. So without further ado, let's get on with it. By the way, how's everything look and sound? If anybody that would be kind enough, let me know in the chat if everything's going okay. So let's get going with this thing. Switch cameras here. Okay. So I'm going to start this off by talking about. The live center that you likely, the type of live center you likely got with your lathe when you bought it. So this one is actually standard equipment with most Nova products, or some version of this would be included. Now, a couple of things about this is a single bearing um, live center. There's nothing wrong with that, but double or triple bearings offer a much smoother operation, and typically they last a little bit longer. Now, this design right here has. Oh, you can't hear me? Hang on a second. Let me work on that. Is that better? Is that better? Let's see. Awesome. Okay. So the first one we're going to talk about is this one. This is very similar to what you'll regularly receive with your lathe as standard equipment. This is a single bearing unit. It works, you know, just fine. The double and triple bearing live centers offer a smoother operation and longer, more durability. So looking at this live center, we're going to take a look at some of the features here. There's a 60-degree point in the center, right? Now the 60-degree centers tend to can split your work if you're working on spindle work, because it tends to drive itself like a wedge the in between the grain lines in the wood. So that can split your wood. Now, this also has what appears to be like a cup center, and that would be great, especially because it's such a large diameter, except for the fact that this point sticks out too far. So in order to engage this cup center, you'd have to drive this in pretty far into the wood, and likely you'd split it if there's any kind of internal stresses in the wood. And you don't want the point to dig in too deeply most of the time, because that'll be extra material you may have to use, which may or may not be a problem depending on the project that you're doing. But this is basically you know, this is run of the mill. Everybody that has a lathe is probably going to have something like this. Now, when I was new to wood turning, the first live center that I actually bought was one of these. And I think it was mostly because I saw other people buy 60-degree cones, right? Because at that point, I really hadn't I really hadn't put two and two together to figure out that this is much like the previous one. This point tends to drive a wedge in the end grain and possibly can split your materials. Now this one, I'm not sure if it's got more bearings or not. It's definitely got more heft to it. This is just a standard 60 degree. You can get it. Oh no. You gotta be kidding me. All right. Okay. This is a standard 60 degree. Like I said, it's a standard 60 degree. You can get this pretty much anywhere. Um, there's not much more to say about that. Now moving along the line, I'm gonna show you this one. This is the unit that came standard with my Powermatic lathe. Now this one's a step up. So undoubtedly it's got more than one bearing in here. It's a very smooth action. It's also of note, it has this threaded nose on the end which accepts accessories. Now this one's very similar to many other models on the market. Most of your larger, more expensive lathes are gonna come with something pretty much like this. Now, Powermatic does include a 60-degree cone with your live center, and it comes with this handy bar here. And basically, what that does is stop the thing from rotating so that you can thread this on and off. Right now, I'm not really. I was a little concerned when I saw how small this bar was, uh, because things can work themselves on pretty tight on the lathe. And in fact, I ended up bending this. I don't know if you can see that, but it's actually bent because the last time I used it, it was on there so tight that I had to put this in here and use a Tommy bar in these holes to get this thing off. And in the process, I bent the bar. It doesn't seem to affect the operation of the thing, but just thought that was worth mentioning. Now, this one also has the 60-degree cone um, inside your cup center. And while that's nice, the problem is that this point also still, in my opinion, it sticks out too far, right? So having the point there is beneficial because if you're trying to hold or trying to register center on the end of your blank, this point helps you to do that much easier. And then this cup center actually, the benefits of this is that you can hold the material from the end of your work, and you can do that without driving that wedge into the end grain and potentially splitting your piece. And it gives you um, a less damaging hold on your materials. Now, this one is the offering from Easy Wood Tools, right? It's very similar to the Powermatic unit, with one really notable advantage right off the bat. Okay, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and warn you. My computer, again, like last week, I don't know why, it decided to reboot in the middle of my stream. It looks like it may do that again. So if it does, don't go away. I'll be back shortly. I'll be back as quick as I can get it back up and running. But I'm going to continue until then. So, um, like I said, the one big advantage right off the top is that I talk about this point. Now you can see that this point is actually much lower inside the cup center than any of the ones I've shown you previously. That's because I've set it that way. This set screw right here allows you to be able to set this cone, this point, anywhere you like. If you want it to stick out further, you can. If you want it to recess all the way in, you can, and you can actually take it out. You can actually remove it entirely using only the cup center. Although using only the cup center can be difficult, especially if you need to use the tailstock or use your live center to locate center on one end of your blank. Now, as useful as this is, EasyWood also makes an accessory kit, and it comes with these two cones right here. So this one, this is just a 60-degree cone, just like I've shown you 60-degree cones already. No need in really going over that. But this is my favorite feature of this particular unit, this cone center here. Now this can be mounted either this way or this way. So when you mount it this way, which is the way I usually use it, all right, this comes in handy when you're doing segmented pieces because you can use this as both a clamp and a centering jig. So if you already have this ring on the lathe and you want to, shit. Okay, how about now? Is that too loud? Okay, good. All right. Okay, so I'm going to start over with that last thing, just in case uh, you missed it. So anyway, hopefully this is the last time I have to go over this one. But when I'm doing segmented pieces, I use this cone center here to center and clamp my rings right on the lathe, which is really useful. You can also use this cone center if you have a vessel or um, anything with an opening smaller than this diameter to use this for support. So if you needed to go back, let's say you're almost done with it and you decide you want to change something on the outside once you've had the inside hollowed out, you can place this cone on the end of your in the opening of the piece, and then you can provide a little bit of support there for cutting. Now you can also mount this cone center in the other direction, and I'm sure there's several things that you could do with it this way. But the thing that I do with it the most is I use it as a clamping aid because the outside diameter here is so big. A lot of times I can use this for if I'm doing something with bigger rings. If I'm doing something with bigger rings that are too big to use on the other side, I can use this side to clamp with. And also, if I needed to clamp something, um, like in this case, I'd be right on the inside. I'd only be clamping the middle. What I do is I just add a board, piece of round MDF or whatever, and then I'd use this because it's supplying pressure over a large surface area, and use that to clamp my work right on the lathe. So this one, I find this one to be very useful and a nice addition to your arsenal. So the next live center I want to talk about is this one. This is, I use this one pretty regular. This is the Robert Sorby revolving live center. And this is the 7/8 inch size. They make it in two other sizes. I believe it's a 1/2 inch and 1 1/4 inch. I find this one to be the most useful. Now, the nice thing about this one is that it has this really sharp row of teeth around the outside of this live center. But the thing that's most useful about it is this point is spring loaded. Not sure if I can show that, but I'll give it a shot. Now, why is that important? So if you're working on let's say you grab a branch and you want to make a goblet or whatever out of it. Branches aren't typically going to be cylindrical, right? So it can be difficult to center them. So what you can do is you can place this close to center on one side, and you can spin it by just using just the points to hold the piece on, and you can spin that piece of wood and see just how centered it is. A lot of times when it's in motion, it's easier to see. Well, if you're off, then what you can do is you can apply a little pressure to this side and reposition the work, and then let it go, and you can continue to spin it loosely held between those points until you can get it centered. Now, Sorby does make um, they make a drive spur, both one that fits in your chuck as well as one that uh, fits directly into the taper in your headstock that has the same design on it, which is really handy because then you can make adjustments to either side. This one, I really like this one. These teeth hold really, really well. Also, a very nice addition to your arsenal. Moving on, we have the next two are more of a system, right? So the Powermatic unit and the EasyWood unit had some accessories that you could get for it, but this is the Robert Sorby revolving center system, right? And this has a variety of accessories to go along with it. Now, I'm going to go through these and talk about some of the advantages of having the system, and then we got one more that I'm going to go through. But anyway, let me getting off track here. Let me get back to it. So this is your 60-degree cone, right? No need to talk about that. We've talked about 60-degree cones plenty. This one right here is a cup center. So if you're working with small spindle work, and a lot of times when you're working with small spindle work, particularly like finial, right, and you want the end of it to come to a point, having a divot in the end from something like a 60-degree cone is really a problem. You really don't want that. So this unit right here is actually conical. The walls inside are conical, which will cause it to automatically center the spindle. So you can turn down the end of it so that you can have tailstock support, and you can work on the length of it, the length of your small spindles using this without putting a divot in the end of it. So that's pretty handy to have. Now this one here, I'm not really sure exactly what the purpose is of this one, but it does have uh, a conical edge right here, beveled edge, I guess you call it, right at the top, and then the side walls are straight. Not sure exactly how I would use that, but you know, uh, something to investigate for later. Now, this one also has a combination 60-degree cone with a cup center on it. And you'll notice that the center, the uh, the point doesn't stick out very far from the cup, making it very useful. The small size of this unit is actually really helpful when you're working on smaller spindle work um, versus something, say, this size. Uh, and then we also have this unit right here, which is a standoff. And basically, what this does is, if you're working on the say the bottom of a bowl or uh, the end of a spindle, and you want to turn off the material that you were using to hold it, a lot of times it's difficult to get it. You know, you want to have tailstock support on the end of your work, and it can be difficult to cut the tenon or whatever down to a small enough piece, that a small enough nub that you could just easily cut it off with your tools. But with something like this, it allows you to get down in there and work down to a very small nub without the bulk of this live center getting in your way. And also, another part that comes with it, this is a regular cup center. Now this is useful if you had some delicate work and you didn't want to have a divot in the center, but it can be difficult to center this, to register the center without a point. And you'll also notice that there's a hole inside there. Well, there's this pin here, and this is basically the same thing as this. So this allows you to work right up to the end of your work without your live center getting in your way. And this is nice because it doesn't have a point like this one does. So you're not putting a little divot in there in case for whatever reason that divot was going to be a problem. And you can use this from either side. One side's a little longer than the other. The thing I also forgot to mention is, you know, it's nice that it has all these interchangeable bits, but you need to be able to get those out. And using it on the lathe, it's going to get packed in there pretty tightly. So this handy little tool here they include is how you remove things. So it's got a little notch here in the end. You just put that around the shaft of the insert and pry it out. Easy as that. Now this one, I saved this one for last. This is without a doubt my favorite. This is the Nova Live Center system, right? And this one has lots and lots and lots of potential. And you can, something I've forgotten to mention about the Powermatic and the EasyWood Live Center systems is that you can make accessories that thread on to the nose of this unit here in much the same way as these cup centers and these 60-degree cones work. And there's actually quite a few accessories on the market that you can get that fit on these, since most of these are all the same. This this threading here on both of these units is exactly the same. And since this is a clone of several others, the one way and the unit that they provide with the Jet, as well as the unit they provide with the Lagunas, I believe, you can, those things are interchangeable. But the problem is, uh, yeah, don't worry about it, J and D. I'll get back. I'll go back to that after I'm done. And so that, sorry you missed it, but I'll go back to that and I'll go over it again. So anyway, like I was saying, these two, there's a variety of accessories available on the market. The only thing is that those are separate purchases, right? And you know, I don't know where your I don't know where your finances lie, but you know, I like to do things as I like to, you know, I like a deal. So, like I said, these you can get those extra accessories, but this one, coincidentally, is I don't think it's the cheapest one out of with the exception of the standard included one and the generic 60-degree cone. I want to say that this one runs about $70 or $80. And this one comes from the factory um, with several upgrades and accessories right off the bat. Now, this isn't sponsored by Nova, although I do work with them from time to time. But this literally, guys, this is my favorite live center, and you're gonna see why in just a minute. So this one comes with a variety of accessories. All right, you have your 60-degree cone, just like everything else, right? No need to talk about that. I barely even use these things, but it does come with that. All right. It also comes a cup center with a cone in the center. Now, this is one thing I'm not fond of with the system because this point sticks out too far, right? I've talked about that before, and there doesn't seem to be a way to adjust it. I wish there was a, you know, this hole. There's a hole in here that goes all the way through, but it's more of a taper, and this piece only goes in there so far. It would be nice if, like the Easy Wood, if this was adjustable, but it's not. But like I said, this is my favorite unit, and it's a forgivable sin. But this one does work just like the others. The only thing is that if you drove this point deep enough into your work to engage the cup center, you just might split it. Now you can take a bar and stick it in the end here and pop this out, and then you can use it as just a cup center. But again, without that point, it's difficult to find. It's difficult to register center accurately. Now let's get on to some of my favorite parts about this. First of all, this is one of my absolute favorite accessories for this unit. So this is a standoff, much like the Robert Sorby system that I showed you. But this point is actually much smaller than the point. The actual point is much smaller, and the standoff is much longer, right, than the Robert Sorby one. And the fact that the nose of this has a long taper on it, this provides a great deal of latitude when you're trying to work in close and get down to a small nub on the bottom of your work pieces, right? I absolutely adore this piece. Now, um, this entire live center is hollow in the center. It comes with this knockout bar, and this is how you remove your accessories uh, because they get stuck in there from use. Now, inside the end of this thing is actually a number 2 Morse taper. It's actually a stubby Morse taper, which is really very handy. Um, let's talk about the last two or three accessories, and then I'm going to show you why I feel like this is the most versatile live center that I own. So it also comes with this piece right here, which is nice because on this side it's flat, and you can use this for clamping operations or pressing operations if you want to, you know, if you had some situation where you needed to use the quill as a press to press things in and apply pressure, this is great for that. You can also put a board on the end of a piece, like your segmented pieces, and you can use this as a clamp as well. Now on the other side, it's threaded, which is great because this is super nice for someone that wants to make their own jigs or some kind of specialty holding device. This thing is threaded with, I believe it's a 1/4-20 thread pattern, and you can use a standard bolt. A hex bolt is included in the package, and you can use this to bolt on accessories of all kinds. And it's very easy because unlike these two, you don't have to thread your accessories. So basically, usually when I want to mount something to this, I'll drill a hole in the back side that will fit over this portion here for a little bit of extra support, and then I'll drill a hole through and bolt this on. And you don't have to use this long bolt. You can use any bolt. Nova was forward thinking enough to make this a quarter 20, which is readily available here in the States. I'm not sure how readily available that is in other countries, but here in the States, a quarter 20 is about as common as it gets. Now, it also comes with a hanger bolt, right? Which is nice because you can just drill a hole, and this is basically a lag screw on the other end, and you can attach whatever you need to attach to your live center. Now, I don't know how many bearings are in any of the other live centers, but I know for a fact that this one has 3. And being able to attach pretty much anything you need to this is actually awesome, right? One of the things I like about this is I mentioned that it had a number 2. Ooh, wait, sorry, I got ahead of myself. So this piece right here actually has another function, and that function is to mount this cone on the end of it. Now, a cone like this would be more useful because it's bigger, but this one does have its uses. On the inside, it's got an inverted cone. The walls are conically shaped like a cone, so that you can use this to center and support spindle work without putting a point in the end or marking it for center. It's useful for that. It's also useful if you have something that's like a dome or a hemispherical shape on one end. You can use this to hold those things in place. Now, you can also mount this on here the other way. I'm trying to remember how that goes. Oh, you take that out and you can mount it on here this way. Now, I have used this for purposes such as small things like a coffee scoop, the cup on a coffee scoop, or the cup portion of a goblet. So it's got these little steps here, and you can use those to support a variety of diameters of things, and you can put it and hold it on the end, and you can have support there. I think you can still, and you can still use that in there. I don't know why you do that, but you know, if you're so moved to do so, you can do so. So this is the part that brings me to what I think is the most exciting, because in addition to all the other ways that they've designed that I can add things to this live center, I can also make my own jigs. So this is part of a jig that I made to turn spheres, right? So this is the smaller side, and this I turned a number 2 stubby Morse taper simply by taking a caliper and measuring the diameter here and here to come up with that stubby number 2 Morse taper, and I'm able to drop that right in there, and that makes for a perfect mount there for me to do my spheres. I've since made other jigs for this because it is, that small point for this particular application isn't quite as good as quite as nice as I would like it to have been. But a little bit more time and work with it may have gotten it a little better. But the options, it's just a good example of some of the advantages to using this product. Now, one thing I did make, and I tried and tried and tried to find it before I started doing the live, is I actually made a UHMD insert that acted as a mandrel saver, because this hole goes all the way through. And I've asked Nova on several occasions to machine something like that, because that would make for one heck of a mandrel saver, especially because it's got triple bearings, where most of my mandrel savers have one bearing, a really cheap one, and they end up getting so hot. I've even had one weld itself to the taper, which was a level of excitement nobody wants at the lathe. So, and then one more thing that I want to share with you. This is a I'm not sure that this is something that's marketed, but if you use a vacuum chuck, which I've invested in a vacuum chuck setup, I'm going to be hopefully doing possibly one of these lives in the future, showing how I put that together. But if you do that, you want to be able to. Hang on a second. Be right back. So if you have a vacuum chuck, what you'll want to do is when you turn your work around, you want to make sure that it's as close to centered as possible. The easiest way to do that is to have a reversing adapter, basically an adapter that fits in your tailstock that you can thread onto your chuck. So you can put your chuck in the tailstock. And then you can present your work still mounted to the chuck to the vacuum chuck, right? Now, it's nice to be able to do it like this. This is ironically a stubby #2 Morse taper, which if you recall, I told you that this has a stubby #2 Morse taper, right? So I can combine these two, and now I have the ability to rotate it as I seat this on my vacuum chuck. And there's various other, there's a few other reasons why you would want to mount your chuck to your tailstock and have it rotate. But this is an excellent application for this unit, which a lot of people don't know that this is possible. I didn't know. I found out by accident. Because I had the Live Center system, I knew about the #2 Morse taper, stubby Morse taper in the end, and I just so happened to buy one of these, and I noticed that it was short when it arrived. When I looked at the picture, it didn't look that short, and that is just absolutely amazing. So, all right, so take that out. So that is my spiel on Live Centers. Let me switch my camera back here. Let's see. Okay. So that's my spiel on Live Centers. Uh, I know that Jax. I know you missed the part on the Robert Sorby one, and I'll go back and I'll talk about that again here in a minute. But does anybody have any questions? I'm not sure. You know, I know that I've talked to a few people and they weren't aware of some of these options, but you know, I wanted to do this video and get that information out there. Now, I worked on getting a list together, Amazon affiliate links for all these things. I'm going to put those in the show notes after the live is over. Um, Looking for questions. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Melinda, it just looks that way for my Melinda Jones says that it looks super organized. I just threw this little block together today just so that I'd have a way to hold them so they weren't like rolling all over the place while I'm trying to talk about them. But ordinarily, actually, my wood turning accessories is one of the few things in the shop that I actually keep fairly organized because there's so many of these parts and pieces all over the place, and I really need to know where they are when I'm ready to use them. So I actually do keep them fairly organized, not like this, obviously, but yeah. So all right. Well, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Sorby system so that I can for Jax, so that I can show him how that works out. So um, this is the Sorby. Let me go back to the other camera here. So this is the Sorby Live Center system, and these are the accessories for it right here. Oops, bring that back. These are the accessories for it right here. It's pretty similar to the Nova. It's a much smaller size, which can be advantageous depending on the scale of work that you're working with. It does have the 60-degree cone, just like any system would. This is the wrench that comes with it to take things out, because although they're easy to take out right now, once you put them in the tailstock and start applying pressure to things, it will not be that easy. It does come with a standoff, which is nice because that gives you the room to get in and work on the bottom of your bowls and removing tenons and things like that. It does come with a and cup and point combo, and it is recessed in there enough to make it really useful. This is really good for turning small spindles that uh, delicate wood that maybe has some fracture, you're concerned that it may split when you're using a 60-degree point or something like this. So the point helps you to register center, and then the ring on the cup center spreads out the pressure on the end of the piece and keeps it from splitting. It also has a cup center without a point, and it comes with this handy little adapter here so that you can use as a standoff without leaving a divot in your work, which can also be pretty handy. And it comes with a very small. Oops, take that out. Comes with a very small. I don't know what you would call that, but the inside of this one, the walls are conical shaped, and you could use this if you're making a finial or something like that, and you just need to work on the length of the spindle, and you don't want to leave a divot in the end of it. You can use this, and it also has the added benefit of self-centering, so long as your workpiece is smaller than this diameter here. And this one's basically the same thing, except the walls are straight on the inside. I'm not really sure what I would use that for, but it's in the kit, and one of these days I'll figure it out, and I'll be sure to get back on and share that with everybody. So that's it. I'm gonna assume. Let's see. Go back to the other camera. Okay. So that's it. I'm gonna assume that I did a fantastic job explaining this because I haven't gotten any questions yet. But I'm gonna give it another minute or two to see if anybody has any questions. Feel free to post those in the comments. And I just want to let you know that I will be doing this pretty much every Wednesday, barring any extenuating circumstances. I understand that we're expecting a hurricane over the weekend uh, here in Florida. So, that's always a wild card. And, everybody, um, and everybody's going through the whole coronavirus thing. So, Jax from J&D Creations is asking, how do I find the Steb Center? So, I'm assuming that you're talking about this one. I really like this one. I like the fact that it's got the sharp teeth and the spring-loaded point in the center. Um, you know, lots of good things. I can't say enough good about it. It works really well. I have some other units kind of like this, but the points aren't as sharp. A lot of those, when you look at the ring in the center, the inside of the ring is straight. It goes straight down, and the teeth aren't quite as pointed, but it's probably not easy to see. But the backside of this is tapered, which makes another bevel. Um, for to make sure you got sharp teeth, and these teeth do hold very well, and they don't slip very often. So hope that answers the question. Um, so another thing, this video is a little bit different. Usually I try to do a project video. So let me know what you think about these little, I guess you call this a tip video. And if you like to see more of that kind of stuff, make sure you let me know in the comments. Also, let me know what you'd like to see me do in the future. I think maybe next week I'll be turning, let's see, I don't know where I put that thing. I'll be turning a little box out of a Banksia pod. I promised somebody one a long time ago, and I hadn't got around to making it yet. So that's probably going to be next week. Some of the other things I had kind of in store is I want to make maybe do a vacuum chuck. So got lots of ideas. I got lots of ideas for the future, but your input's really valuable. So if you feel so inclined, please do leave some information, leave some suggestions in the comments. So anyway, I'm not going to sit here and waffle on as Nick Zametti would say. I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. But thank you for joining me in the shop. Thank you for putting up with these early videos. all my technical difficulties and whatever. And and I know for a fact that they'll be getting better. So make sure you continue to come here. Make sure you continue to join in on Wednesdays at 7:30 Central Standard Time here in the U.S. Um, and again, thanks for joining me and Dreadnought and make something. Peace.